The locker room smelled of sweat and bleach, but all I could feel was the weight of the letter in my hand, its edges biting into my palm. My sobs echoed off the cold tiles, each one a confession I wasn't ready to make. I was 17, a senior at Lincoln High in small-town Indiana, and my world was unraveling faster than I could hold it together. The letter was from Jamie, my best friend since 5th grade, the one who'd taught me how to throw a curveball and shared his mom's peanut butter cookies after practice. It wasn't just a letter, it was a confession, scrawled in his messy handwriting, saying he loved me. Not as a friend, but as something more. Something I'd felt too, but buried under fear of what it meant in a town like ours. I'd known I was different since middle school, when I'd catch myself staring too long at Jamie's grin during baseball practice, my heart racing in a way it never did for anyone else. But in a place where faggot was slung like a casual insult in the hallways, I'd locked that part of me away, convincing myself it was safer to stay invisible. Jamie's letter shattered that illusion, and now I was drowning in questions. Did I love him back? Could I admit it? What would it cost me team? My family? My future? The locker room was supposed to be my sanctuary, where I was just Alex, the pitcher with a killer arm. Not Alex, the kid who might be gay. But that night, after practice, with the team gone and the lights buzzing faintly, it felt like a cage. I slid to the floor, the letter trembling in my hands, and let the tears come. I didn't hear the door creak open. Alex. Coach Hargrove's voice was low, steady, like he was calming a spooked horse. I froze, my breath hitching. He was a legend at Lincoln Tough. Old school. The kind of guy who'd played college ball and still wore his state championship ring from '92. I braced for judgment, for him to see the letter and turn away. Instead, he sat on the bench across from me, his knees creaking as he lowered himself. You don't have to talk, he said, his eyes scanning my face. Not the paper. But I'm here. It wasn't what I expected. In that moment, I didn't know if I could trust Haim or anyone with the truth clawing at my chest. I wiped my face, trying to hide the letter, but it slipped to the floor. Coach didn't move to pick it up. He just waited, his silence louder than my sobs. I wanted to run, to pretend this wasn't happening, but his presence pinned me there. What did it mean that he wasn't yelling, wasn't walking away? Could I tell him about Jamie? About me? The bell for the late bus rang outside, sharp and insistent, pulling me back to reality. I stuffed the letter into my bag, my hand shaking. I'm fine, I lied, standing up. Coach nodded, but his eyes said he knew better. You're not alone, Alex, he said as I reached the door. Not now, not ever. I didn't believe him. Not yet. But as I stepped into the chilly Indiana night, Jamie's letter burning a hole in my bag, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, I could find a way to face what came next. The next morning, Lincoln High buzzed with the usual chaos, lockers slamming, kids shouting, the faint hum of a pep rally being planned. I moved through the halls like a ghost, Jamie's letter still in my bag, its words replaying in my head. I've loved you since we were kids. Alex. I can't keep pretending. Every glance from a classmate felt like they could see right through me, like they knew. What makes it so hard to admit who you are when the truth feels like a betrayal of everything you've built? I avoided Jamie all day, skipping lunch to hide in the library, but his absence was louder than his presence. By the time baseball practice rolled around, my stomach was a knot of dread. On the field, Jamie was his usual self-cracking jokes, tossing balls with that easy grace that made him our star shortstop. But when our eyes met, his smile faltered, and I saw the question in his gaze. Did you read it? I turned away, focusing on my pitches, but every throw was off, the ball slipping from my grip like my own courage. Coach Hargrove noticed. Alex, you're overthinking, he called, jogging over. What's got you rattled? I mumbled something about a bad day, but his eyes lingered, like he was piecing together the puzzle from last night. He didn't push, just clapped my shoulder and said, "Focus on the now. The rest'll sort itself." After practice, Jamie caught me by the bleachers. "You didn't text me back," he said, his voice low, hurt. His brown eyes, usually so bright, were clouded with worry. I wanted to tell him I'd read the letter 100 times, that I'd traced his words until they blurred. But all I managed was, "I need time." "Time for what?" he pressed, stepping closer. "To decide if you're going to hate me." The accusation stung because it wasn't true, but it wasn't entirely false either. I was scared, not of him, but of what loving him meant in a town where people like us were whispered about, not celebrated. Before I could answer, a shout from the parking lot broke the moment some teammates calling Jamie for a ride. He hesitated, then walked away, leaving me with the weight of his words and my silence. That night, I lay awake, the letter on my nightstand, wondering if I could be brave enough to face him, to face myself. Days bled into a week, and I became an expert at dodging Jamie. I'd take the long way to class, eat lunch in the art room, anything to avoid his searching eyes. But avoidance didn't erase the questions. What did it mean to love someone when the world around you said it was wrong? At home, things weren't easier. My dad, a mechanic who lived for Friday night football and church on Sundays, kept asking why I was so quiet. Mom thought it was college stress, but her gentle prodding only made me retreat further. I wanted to tell them about Jamie, about the letter, but the thought of their disappointment or worse. Disgust kept me silent. Coach Hargrove became my unexpected anchor. During practice, he'd pull me aside, not to pry, but to check in. "You carrying something heavy, kid?" he'd ask, and I'd shrug, unable to meet his eyes. One day, he handed me a water bottle and said, "You know, I had a friend in college. Good guy. Loved someone he wasn't supposed to. Took him years to be okay with it." I froze. Was he saying what I thought? Before I could ask, he walked off to yell at the outfielders, leaving me with more questions than answers. That night, I Googled coming out in small towns, scrolling through stories of rejection and, sometimes, acceptance. Each one felt like a mirror, reflecting my fear and my hope. By Friday, the pressure was unbearable. Jamie cornered me after practice, his voice sharp. "You're shutting me out, Alex. If you don't feel the same, just say it." His words cut deep. Because I did feel the same, I just didn't know how to say it without losing everything. I mumbled an apology and fled, my heart pounding. That night, I sat in my room, the letter in my hands again. I wanted to be brave, but bravery felt like stepping off a cliff with no net. Could I tell Jamie the truth? Could I tell anyone? The regional championship was a week away, and the team was electric with anticipation. But for me, every practice was a tightrope walk between pretending everything was fine and crumbling under the weight of Jamie's letter. What does it take to choose yourself when it feels like the world is watching, judging? During a scrimmage, Jamie and I collided fielding a ground ball, our shoulders brushing. The touch sent a jolt through me, and for a split second, I saw the old Jamie and me best friend, not the boy I was avoiding. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft. I nodded, but the lie burned. After practice, Coach called me into his office. "You're not yourself out there," he said, leaning back in his chair. "And don't give me that bad day crap. What's eating you?" His directness caught me off guard. I wanted to tell him about Jamie, about the fear choking me, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I blurted, "What if someone on the team wasn't who everyone thought?" Coach raised an eyebrow, then leaned forward. "People are people, Alex. They love who they love. doesn't change how they play ball." His words were simple, but they hit like a fastball. Was it possible he'd accept me? That night, I texted Jamie, "Can we talk?" "Tomorrow, after practice." My hands shook as I hit send. His reply came instantly, "Finally." The single word felt like a lifeline, but also a challenge. I had one night to figure out what I'd say, how I'd face the boy who'd changed everything with a single letter. The next day, I was a wreck. Every pitch I threw in practice was wild, my focus shattered by the thought of meeting Jamie. What does it feel like to stand at the edge of truth, knowing one step could change everything? By the time practice ended, my palms were sweaty, my heart a drumbeat. We met by the old oak tree behind the field, where we used to carve our initials as kids. Jamie looked nervous too, his hands stuffed in his pockets. "So," he said, his voice tight, "what's it gonna be, Alex?" I took a breath, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. "I read your letter. And I feel it too. I have for a long time." Saying it felt like shedding a skin I'd outgrown, terrifying and freeing all at once. Jamie's eyes widened, a smile breaking through his worry. "You mean it?" But before I could answer, a voice cut through the dusk. "Tyler, our team's catcher, stepping out from behind the bleachers." What the hell did I just hear? His tone was sharp, accusing. My stomach dropped. How much had he heard? Enough to ruin us. Jamie stepped forward, protective. "It's not your business, Tyler." But Tyler's sneer said otherwise. "Wait till the team hears about this." He spat, turning away. Panic clawed at me. If Tyler talked, the whole school would know by morning. My family. My future. Jamie grabbed my arm. "We'll figure this out," he said, but his voice shook. As Tyler's footsteps faded, I wondered if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life or the bravest choice. By Monday, the rumors were everywhere. Whispers followed me in the halls, eyes darting away when I looked. Tyler hadn't wasted time. What does it mean to be exposed before you're ready? To have your truth weaponized? I wanted to disappear, but there was no hiding now. Jamie found me at lunch, his face pale. "Tyler told the team. Some of them are not okay." I felt sick. The team was my family, my escape. Now it felt like a battlefield. "What do we do?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "We don't back down," Jamie said, fierce. "We're not wrong for this." His courage made me want to be stronger, but fear still gnawed at me. That afternoon, practice was tense. Some teammates avoided me, others threw cold glares. Tyler smirked from the dugout, like he'd won something. Coach Hargrove called a team meeting after practice. "I hear there's talk," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Let me make this clear. This team is about respect. You don't have to agree with everyone's choices, but you will treat each other like brothers." His eyes landed on Tyler, who looked away. Then Coach did something I'll never forget. He pulled out a worn photo from his wallet, a picture of him and a young man, arms around each other, smiling. "This was my friend, David," he said. "He was gay. Best man I ever knew. He taught me that love doesn't make you less." The team was silent, stunned. I felt tears prick my eyes, not from shame, but from gratitude. Coach's words didn't fix everything. Tyler and a few others kept their distance, but most of the team softened, their silence less hostile. What does it take to rebuild trust when the ground beneath you has shifted? Jamie and I started sitting together at lunch, holding hands under the table, testing the waters of being seen. At home, I knew I couldn't hide forever. One night, I sat my parents down. My voice shook as I told them about Jamie, about me. Mom cried, not out of anger, but because she hadn't known I was struggling. Dad was quiet, then said, You're my son. That doesn't change. Their acceptance wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The championship game arrived, and the stands were packed. Jamie and I played our hearts out, not just for the win, but for each other. When I struck out the final batter, the crowd roared, and Jamie tackled me in a hug, right there on the field. For once, I didn't care who saw. After the game, Coach pulled us aside. "I'm proud of you both," he said, "not just for the game, but for being true to yourselves." His words felt like a blessing, a reminder that we weren't alone. Months later, Jamie and I were still navigating our new normal. We weren't just a couple. We were a statement in a town that wasn't always kind. But we had allies, Coach, my parents, even some teammates who'd come around. What does it mean to live your truth when it's hard, but worth it? Graduation came, and Jamie and I walked across the stage, our hands brushing as we tossed our caps in the air. We'd chosen a college in Chicago, a place where we could be ourselves without fear. The future was uncertain, but it was ours. Looking back, that night in the locker room wasn't just about tears or fear. It was the start of finding my courage, of learning that real love doesn't hide. Coach Hargrove's quiet presence, his story about David, showed me that one person's acceptance can change everything. As we drove out of town, Jamie's hand in mine, I realized the letter wasn't the end of my story, it was the beginning. We weren't running away. We were running towards something bigger, something true. And that was a victory worth celebrating.